All right. Good morning and happy Taco Tuesday. We are coming to you from Off the Rails Sports Podcast. I'm John. If you could hit that like and subscribe. I'm here with Scott, the co-host with the most. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just came off a pretty fun March Madness game to watch. You know, you're watching ESPN, you're watching Fox, where the money's at, not here at our little podcast. You know,
Right, right.
like and subscribe.
Oh,
Get
I
those
love it.
numbers up.
Love it.
But they're bringing up about, oh, it was a UFC fight. The whistles were put away at the first half, and then the whistles came out, and it's 25-1. Whistles got blown, and hats off to the Gators to adapting, right?
Yep.
I hate, I despise when, you know, you run to the referees as your scapegoat. And I know I'm a fan of hockey and stuff, and I always yell, "Oh, somebody paid off the zebras." You know what I mean? I get it. But, you know, at the beginning of the March Madness, every coach said, "Be prepared for a tight whistle." Did they want TV to be seeing a good battle with all this NIL money being brought in? Did they want to see a close finish? Who knows? But at the end of the day, the Gators won. Before the madness started, we before brackets were built, Jay and I made our bets. Auburn, Houston. You got to the final. When we built our brackets, you picked the Gators to win. Hats off to you picking the Gators. Too bad you didn't get too much money on it.
No, got zero. I had
Yeah.
Houston. I had that.
Yeah.
To your point, um, you know, it is the constant bullshit that fans say of, hey, let them play, but hey, that was a foul, right?
Yes.
I mean, and I will say this, that I can't say I'm objective, right? I was rooting for Houston. I had them on a future. I thought they let them play a lot in the first half. Okay. There was times on both sides I thought they could have called fouls, but look, at the end of the day, I don't care which way they call the game, just call it equally.
Amen.
And I thought they did a nice job of that in the first half. I think they brought the whistles in a little more in the second half because look, you just can't let it become, a sumo wrestling, some brawl for it all at the end. I mean, fouls did matter, and people have to adjust accordingly. Florida just won. They just
Yeah.
won the game.
They won.
Houston had the game, and I said this last night on the podcast. You got to remember these are 18-year-old kids. Okay,
Yes.
I know they look like adults. I know they look like men. They comport themselves. They act accordingly, but these are 18 and 19-year-old kids, and they did a hell of a job. I mean, somebody has to lose. That's the beauty of
Yep.
sports, right?
Oh, it
I'm not
is.
doing I'm not doing the conspiracy theory bullshit
Right.
that, oh, the refs. I mean, okay, maybe refs do make mistakes. They're humans like everybody else in that game, but I thought for the most part it was a fairly officiated game.
Right. You know, 1 foot, 2 feet of where the referee is running at is a whole different perspective that is supposed to TV zooming in on somebody.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't have slow mo unless the whistle's blown dead, and then you can go look at it. And then we complain like, "What's taking so long? Oh,
Yes,
they must be
exactly.
reversing it." And what do you mean they got to put point 0.8 tenths of a second back on the clock? Does that really do anything?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about the clown who is commentating or is doing play by play during the Final Four, Stan Van Gundy. He's a pro guy, right? And he would sit there and all he does is bitch and whine about the reviews. And then when they get to a review, he goes, hey, how come they're not going to go back a little and call that foul at the beginning of the review and expand the
Right.
review? He wanted to expand the review to be able to add foul calls. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, just make up your mind.
Right. Right.
And let's be honest. Let's be uh, honest on a level that nobody else on a podcast is going to be level that is going to talk about. With the influx of gambling pressure and money, you have to have reviews. You have
Yes.
to, just
Yes.
so people have faith in the game. That's it.
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about that behind the camera
Yeah.
about, once this started coming back to evolving about how it's easy to bet on your phone,
Yes.
you know. You don't have the
Absolutely.
hidden bookie that Jane used to have back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Get Sal. Remember Sal?
Yeah. Sal. Yeah. Sal on the corner liquor store. Yeah. Thanks, man. Cold cut, and 20 on Florida. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You
Ah,
know, it's and I will say this to anybody listening. I've been gambling on sports for 30 years plus years. It's a dangerous game they're playing with this fan sports,
oh,
dual sports. Like you say, Scott, and you're so smart about so many things. With the access only a phone call away, and they pimp it like they used to do cigarettes of, hey, be in the game, have some juice, and have some skin in the game, have some juice.
yeah.
Man, that is a dangerous goddamn world
It
right there,
is.
man.
It
It
is.
is.
It
It
is. I
is.
mean, and now they're letting loans happen on the app too. Like
Yes.
what's
Yes.
your credit report? You can prove your job. Like, oh, we'll give you an extra $20. We'll give you an extra couple $100.
It and I don't want to go down. We do need to do a pod just about gambling because you and I
Yeah.
have done.
Oh,
We maybe next Wednesday we'll do one, or maybe tomorrow. Let's do one tomorrow, maybe about some gambling. But well, I sent this article to Brother Scott. I really haven't mentioned it. Is the state of Maryland is basically launching a lawsuit against Sports Kings or FanDuel for deceptive advertising to bring people
yes.
in. And
Yes.
let me explain this a little deeper. We're going to get into it deeper tomorrow. But what people don't realize, there's professional gamblers who make a living at gambling. Not a lot, but there is. And what these companies do is they run an algorithm that people who win at a higher percent, they get rid of them. They say, we don't need your business.
Yes.
They literally will get rid of them. But the degenerate gambler who loses, say, 60% of his bets, they keep coming. We're going to give
Yeah.
you promos,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. You type in promo code loser 2025. We'll
That's
give
called
you an extra
JT.
50 bucks.
JT,
We'll, gi-
yeah. You
we'll give you
you
an
get the
extra 50
20%
bucks.
bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll give you an extra 50 bucks as long as you make a $200 bet.
Yeah. That's exactly it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's what they do.
it's
It,
what they do. And I love listening to sports podcasts, but I'm telling you, whether it's on ESPN, Bet, or whatever, they are the primary advertiser. It's like if you watch TV at night, I know you don't even know what that is, Scott.
I don't know.
There's a thing, there's a little box and they have programming that goes, every commercial is a drug commercial.
Yeah.
Everyone, right?
Yeah.
And on the sports podcast or on sports shows, every one of them is a betting app or it's a
Yeah.
betting
It is.
proposition.
And, and it's just like cigarettes. When cigarettes had
Hmm.
ads, you would see a cigarette ad, and then you would see a "Don't smoke, cancer, lung" ad about
Hmm.
this is what happens to you. Because they make the cigarette companies pay for those ads, and they're like, go ahead,
Absolutely.
like they're addicted, they're not going nowhere,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
and we're gonna put a coupon on the cigarette box so they can get the discount.
Exactly, my
Yeah.
friend.
So
Exactly. Yeah, maybe
we
tomorrow
digress.
but you know what? That's why a podcast is different. We don't know where it's going, right? I mean,
Amen. Off the rails.
that we want to be off the rails, right? That's what we
Yeah.
want to do. All right. Because of me, we weren't able to do our typical one on Monday. So let's recap it a little. Let's go back to Darlington. Let's have a little recap of what happened in NASCAR. Give me your overall view of what happened at the race, Scott.
Well, I kind of missed, and then I put it in the hole, kind of like the Masters that are coming up.
Yes, yes.
I was worried that it would be a snooze fest a little bit, that Denny Hamlin was just going to take off like a rocket ship. Apparently, I had the wrong number. It was the 24.
Yes.
That dude was
What that
dominating.
Byron.
Byron, my
Yes.
man. Yeah, thanks
No,
for
no,
helping
you're
me out
good. You're
there.
good. Keep going.
Yeah, so William Byron took off in the 24 car in the retro, Jeff Gordon car with the flames on it, painted all
Hmm.
silver. His last win, I believe, that he had. So it's very special to Jeff Gordon, and he dominated. Clean
Yeah.
air, smoked everybody. You saw a little snippet of when he got behind the cars and lapping them, he had issues and he would slow down and everybody would catch up to him. You know, then they wheeled in Richard Petty, Mr. Cigarette smoking himself.
Yep.
And, they're trying to, it's a throwback race. So they throw back to all these old schools and bring about those stories about, hey, the track was designed for down here. The banking was a safe zone. Somebody got pushed up on accident, realized it was faster to go up there. So we heard the same old stories from the Petties, which needs to be done, right? It needs to be done because NASCAR is still a relatively new sport, even though they've been around for 75 plus years. But you look against baseball, how long has baseball been around?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, they got to bring in the old comers and they need to do this. But come on. We got some more relative people. Bring in Jimmy Johnson. Bring in Jeff Gordon. Bring in Tony Stewart. Like those are the people that the
First,
millennials are going to know.
first of all, I want to preface what I'm going to say here with I'm going to be asking Scott some hard questions here. Okay.
Yeah.
And now hold on. I want everybody out there to understand. I'm not attacking Scott. Scott knows more about NASCAR than I'll ever know. Okay, I'm giving him his due, right? I'm just asking him to explain. I want everybody to understand I am not going to attack him, okay?
Yeah, totally.
I like the sport of NASCAR. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something where NASCAR has their head so far up their goddamn ass, okay? I watched that race. Okay, I'm watching it so I can actually have a coherent conversation with Brother Scott. And all I'm seeing is the retro this and the retro that. And the
Yep.
race is honestly a snooze fest. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
William Byron is so far ahead, literally, he could make two stops at the drive through at Starbucks and still have the lead. Okay. Now, to me, and this is just me, I am stunned that they don't bring in who is the biggest iRacer in the world. I don't even know the cat's name.
Right.
Bring in somebody who is going, like you say, Scott, connect to the millennials because
Yes.
they don't give a rat's ass about Cale Yarborough. I don't
Yeah.
need to hear Kevin Harvick say he was a cool dude. Like, what the F does that mean? What does
Right.
cool dude mean? Look, those were some brave human beings, right?
Yes.
He took the Thunderbird or he took the Gran Torino off the lot and he said, okay, give me a seatbelt, we're going. Okay, make sure that cigarette. I thought that was the best line of the night when they were talking about them doing laps in old cars, and Clint Boyer said they even got a cigarette lighter in it that works. And I
Yeah.
thought that was a great line. And no, and because Clint Boyer said it and not Kevin Harvick, we just had to let it go flat. And I was
Right.
like, wow,
Yeah.
there we go, right? Why aren't they
Yes.
bringing in look, like I said, I'm not attacking
Yeah.
Scott.
No. We are
We have
shoulder to
a we
shoulder.
we have a great friend. His name is Bill. He's one of the coolest guys I ever met. He races every night. He likes, but I could tell his interest in NASCAR has fallen off, right? Now
Yep.
he's an old
Yeah.
school guy. But if you want to get to the people like Robbie and people like that, you've got to bring in that connection to what they are doing, don't you
Yeah.
think?
I agree. I agree. I agree. I'm shoulder to shoulder with you. You look at the NHL. They pair up with Nickelodeon
Right.
as a live game is going on and they cartoon it.
NFL, The Simpsons.
Yeah,
They
The
do that.
Simpsons.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
they do it. I mean, do they not have the money to back them for that? I don't know. Like, do they? You don't see a solid sponsor on them on a car anymore. I mean, the
No.
Pennzoil, that's and Hendrick, like we said, and then we find out McLaren. I sent you something about McLaren. Somebody is doing a big sponsor for Kyle Larson. Like, I'm like,
Right.
wow, he's like
Right.
actually
For
going to get.
Indy. For Indy.
Yeah, for
Yes. Yes.
Indy, that's
Yes.
huge. Like he's finally getting out of the Hendrick, I mean, umbrella. But why would you want to get out from underneath there unless you're Jimmy Johnson, which I still don't understand about that too, because like Jeff Gordon came back, Everham came back to Hendrick. Why doesn't Jimmy Johnson be able to come back? Why is he in Toyota? I don't know. There's
I
so much questions.
you
But
know, go ahead. Finish.
no, but you're absolutely right, and I wonder why they're bringing in these guys that and they should. It's fucking Dush. It's like they're so old and they can't connect.
Right.
I wish they would bring somebody that would connect and do it, but they don't. Okay,
Yeah.
you have the retro. Why don't we have a futures like baseball? They have the future baseball nights and stuff. Where they
Right.
bring out the funky
Right.
looking uniforms. I
Yep.
don't know why they don't do that.
Right.
And you know it, it's kind of frustrating, but and then you hear Richard Petty saying, well, if you're here live, you can see the great racing 14th, 15th, 16th, 18th, where they're battling. You don't see that on TV because let's face it, they're going to show William Byron, they're going to show,
Right. Right.
Denny Ham. They're showing the big names and hoping
Right.
that they get up there.
Yeah.
And Pennzoil has a big, pot. They're dropping money just like the NIL. They're just dropping money. So let's get some money on. Let's see where Joey Logano's at,
Hmm.
because they know they got to get that Pennzoil up there for so many minutes.
Right.
It's advertisement. You know, it's funny how you go in there and you take the picture and you can see the Pennzoil stickers and the Quaker State.
Right.
Here's the monster stickers. It's like they're paying for the advertisement to be on there longer than a 30-second commercial.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
I
You
agree.
know, now I'm gonna say two other things here, and I am going to attack NASCAR. And NASCAR, let's give a little backstory. I've been lucky enough to know Scott for 25 years, right? And when I for Scott and I are kind of competitive, and I always gravitated towards his friendship. He was always an engaging human, and I realized he was into NASCAR. Now I'm going to tell you, I knew zero about NASCAR, but I wanted to be able to have conversations with Scott, so I started to learn NASCAR. And this is back what I would consider the golden age, right? When we had Gordon running, we had Earnhardt running, we had literally, and I said, man, they had to run two circuits, and Scott was like, they can't do that. He gave me all the logistical reasons they couldn't do it. And I look back on it and I know I was right. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they would have got brand awareness in twice as many cities over the year. But it doesn't matter. NASCAR is like a suicide bomber and they're pulling the pin, right? They have done everything they can to destroy their brand over the last
Yeah.
20 years. And that's the France family. They own it. Whatever they want to do, fine. But I heard on the telecast this week, they finally named a CEO of development and marketing. Like,
Yes.
how do you not do that in this world where everything is marketing to the millennials, like you say?
Yeah. They're slow. They're slow. They just recently got rid of the carburetor like 4 or 5 years ago.
Right,
They finally went to fuel injection. They're finally understanding what mapping is. You know, the one of the big thing is it's funny is the race is a retro race.
right,
Like back when they used to run out with a big old board and they would post how fast they were going and how
right,
many laps they until come pitting in, then they run back. Back in those days. They spent like a 10-minute segment saying why the Wi-Fi was down on like two-thirds of the cars, the pit roads, and that the crew chiefs were having meltdowns because they didn't know how to call the race because they had no Wi-Fi.
right,
you know they're not having the little calculator like they try to act like there's a little piece of paper that they're out there
right.
calculating the mileage and everything. Oh, we can't see the fuel mapping to see how far he's going to make it on the gas. We can't see this. Yeah, they don't got that. Yeah, exactly. They don't have that. They got this guy.
Yeah,
you know and they got the war room that's back at Hendricks, that back at RCR, back at Joseph Gibbs, that's giving them information that they can't see
absolutely,
either. You know,
absolutely.
at least F1 has the big old, 10-foot, 12-foot freaking monitor screens on both sides that okay, all these people are actually giving information and watching
Right,
information.
right.
You know, they're
Well,
slow because they wanted the brand to be win on Sunday, sell on Monday, but the car doesn't look the way. Like we covered that. We'll cover that till the end of time because they've gotten away from it.
absolutely. The problem NASCAR has is they don't want any brand to be as big as NASCAR,
Yes.
right? And that's because of maybe the egos, whatever it is. Let me tell you right now, let me tell anybody listening to this podcast, the biggest goddamn day in NASCAR. It is not goddamn Daytona. It is not Phoenix at the end. It is the double at Indy. They should
Yep.
be praying that 6 or 7 of these guys do the double.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and take Kyle Larson, the one guy, and go, he's going to do the double. And wow, how you should be promoting that for the first 3 months of the season.
Amen.
Build that momentum.
Yeah. Amen. Hey, I agree. But why is it always NASCAR drivers going to Indy? Why don't we have an Indy driver coming and doing both? That's what I want to see too. Like, why doesn't Kyle Larson, here's some media that you can try to, go up against and call out a McLaren driver and say, hey, I'll get you in a Hendrick car
Well,
and you race the 600 and you race the 500 with me. Let's do this.
yeah, but I mean, I want to say, and I know you're going to correct me. I like it when you do this. I want to say at Daytona, Castroneves ran, or
Yeah, he did.
the and I didn't hear anything about it. Right? It's this is a guy coming in for a one in. You ought to invite this guy.
Yeah,
Open up the world of auto sports to iRacing, to F1, to
yeah,
Indy. But the problem is they are like two gators that are on the same little piece of meat. They do not want to give Indy any due. This is a pissing match
yeah,
between NASCAR's primacy and Indy. And they got ahead of Indy because Tony George literally put his own suicide vest on and he pulled the trigger, and they're still trying to recover.
yeah,
And but the problem is you're both sinking. You're
yeah.
holding on to the piece of meat and you're sinking to the bottom of the pond.
I agree. I agree totally. But NASCAR does have that rule. If you bring in a Castroneves or you bring in the Erica girl that was in
Hmm.
Arizona,
Yes.
that you get in no matter what,
Right.
but you just don't get no points. The team gets up. It's like, okay, you're not racing for the season. How does that? I know, actually, no,
Right.
you don't get no purse. That's what it is. You don't get
Right.
paid.
Right.
Yeah,
It's what
like
is
that's
it?
affecting them.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm
Yeah,
sure Castro Navis isn't going to be able to buy that 12th Ferrari. It's
yeah,
really going to hurt him. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, and God, I love talking to you. Um, I am. Let's do a slight pivot as we're talking about, and I am going to tell you, I watched that F1 race this weekend, and I look. I will say, as a novice, the greatest race I ever saw in my life was Tony Stewart against Carl Edwards from the NASCAR title.
That's great.
Back when
That's
that
great.
was that was the best one I ever saw. Right.
Yes.
I. It wasn't a spectacular race, but I can't think of a better driving exhibition than I saw from Verstappen this weekend. He had the third best car and he took it to those guys. For literally that guy laid it down.
Yeah.
And what he did was just magnifico.
Yeah. Magnifico. Even making a $2 million lawnmower for the guy that's still leading the championship. That was the big part of the race is how they came out of the pit and he ran the McLaren off into their dirt and
Hmm.
and then they're interviewing they have the camera in there as they're sitting there
Right.
drinking their cold water and cooling down and they're like, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad, and oh, that's a pretty
Right.
expensive lawnmower, you know
Yes.
and
Yeah.
we do have a championship battle. It's only 1 point difference
One
between the
point
two.
difference between Lando Norris and Verstappen.
Yeah, well,
And
does
it
Lando have the mentality to be that aggressive that he has to be? He
well,
should
it's
have parked
still early.
Verstappen. He
No
should have
argument.
turned left and wrecked him and just be like, all right, my bad.
Yeah,
He did,
that's true.
last year Verstappen did the same mental games to him and outran him and blocked him everywhere. The kid needs to learn. Let's just wreck both of us, and so he knows that I'm not playing around.
Yeah.
NASCAR style, baby.
Well, I have a feeling that's coming because that's exactly what they're telling him in the driver meeting
Yeah.
after the race,
Michael
right?
Malone got fired.
What's
Sorry.
that?
Michael Malone got fired from the Nuggets.
No.
Yeah, just posted.
Oh
So
man.
you heard it first. Like and subscribe.
Yeah,
That's what you
like and
get.
subscribe. God dang, you're good. Wow, breaking
Off the
news from
rails.
Scott.
Off
Off
the
the
rails.
rails. Hmm. I will say the and I watched that race. There's a turn where they go into the turn at 180 miles an hour, and it is a hard right turn. I don't. It's
Yeah, that
whatever it is, right? There was a moment in this race where an 18-year-old kid led, and his
fastest
name was
lap.
Kimmy something. I
Yep.
apologize for melanin or whatever it was. And I was thinking to myself, this kid is 18 and he is in an F1 car. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Mm-hmm. But and he had the fastest lap of the day,
Yes. Yeah, he did. He
which
had
you
the,
don't get points anymore in F1, I guess.
yeah.
NASCAR adopted it. F1 got rid of it.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. They give you NASCAR points for going through the drive-through at Starbucks if they were an advertiser, right? I
Under,
mean,
understood, but it's a championship point. So if you get to the Sweet 16 or Elite, whatever they're calling it,
yeah, whatever they're
yeah,
calling it.
yeah. But Byron did have a huge lead, like you said. He waited too long.
Yeah.
He went to the pot too many times. Sorry, going back to NASCAR. And you saw the 45 got way out in front of them. They thought their car was way better. They got in traffic and screwed them up.
I got a question, and we're in the last minute here, and I'm sorry to push this on you.
Yeah, no worries.
Byron had a 6 second lead. They went into the pits. This is the explanation I got from the Fox booth: is all their pit stops were the same: 10-1, 10-7, ten
Yeah,
two, whatever, something in that range. And he came out, and literally he wasn't even in the same state.
yeah,
He was literally, and I was thinking, well, can you explain to me how they all come in on the same lap?
yeah,
And they relatively have the same time, and he
right.
went from 4 seconds up to literally 5 seconds behind, and now he's in lap traffic. Do you have any idea what happened there?
Well, because the tire fall off is huge there in Darlington.
Okay.
So when they short pit, or pit early, whatever F1 calls, he got yeah they had the same time, but as so he's 4 seconds behind, right?
Yeah.
Logistically, and then Byron keeps making those six extra laps, and he's losing 2 seconds per lap. So in two
Okay.
laps, he's even with them
I see.
theoretically,
Okay.
and then two more laps, he's 2 seconds ahead of him.
Okay.
And then you go to pit, and then there's the how aggressive are you to get to the first timing line,
Right.
and he's cruising all the way down at pit
Right.
road speed,
Right.
and then he launches out and then passes the timing line, and then he takes off as fast as he can again.
Yeah.
So there's like so that's where pit and early comes in, and it paid off for him that what midway through the race, and he stayed out there and got a bunch of people down
Sure did.
and flipped the whole script. Even Denny Hamlin got way back there. You had Kyle Busch that fell way back, and he was up there. But how the cautions fall and how you get those, pitting early, you live by the sword, die by the sword.
Sure
But
do.
I mean, I did pick Denny Hamlin for the win, so that's
Yeah,
two
you
wins in a
did.
row.
Yeah, you
You
did.
know,
You've done
and
two
now
this year.
UConn, the
Yeah.
girls,
We both had UConn.
yeah,
Paige
Paige showed
Buckers.
up. Yeah,
She sure did. I wonder how it would have been different if Juju Watkins hadn't been hurt. But hey, man, you got to
hey,
play with what you got.
hey,
I mean,
hey, hey,
hey,
hey,
don't
hey.
hate. Don't hate,
Hey,
okay,
hey,
Kim?
hey, producer, you had to drop that extra name in there. Come on. Hey, gotta save that for next year for Juju.
Okay. All right. So tomorrow, we're gonna talk about gambling. Let's talk about some gambling.
Uh-huh.
Let's really get
Let's
into
do it.
that. Let's get into the
Yeah.
weeds. All
The
right. If you
Masters,
could.
Rory changed
Oh,
up
and
his
the roar.
swing.
Yeah, well, let's do the Masters too. I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. I
Yeah,
like where you
changed
go
up
with
his
that stuff.
swing. Changed up. It's kind of like Jay. He
Yeah, it's a
always
lot
changed up his
flatter.
swing.
They say it's flatter. It looks amazing to me, but okay, I don't know, right? It's like saying Dolly Parton is flat. It doesn't really. I don't understand what that is, but okay,
Yeah.
yeah, swing is
Where
amazing.
is Jay today?
I'm in Vegas. I am in Vegas,
Oh,
and I did a short from the sports book last night, and it is just man, it was just crazy last night. Just everybody. And the great thing about being in a sports book when you bet on a game, whether it's Super Bowl or the NCAA championship, half the people are pissed off and the other are
ah,
happy. And,
yeah,
and then you get those dicks who are like, oh, I knew it. I knew it was, look,
ah,
Vegas, the line was 1.5. They won by 2. Who knew
ah.
what? I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Talking about living by the sword, dying by the sword, didn't
Right.
isn't that how Houston got in? like
That's it.
11-1 run, and then all of a sudden, the
Yep.
Gators do it to them.
Hmm.
Ah,
They just
God,
play good.
sports are just insane.
Oh, I love sports.
So
All
do
right,
I.
Scott. Excellent as always. If you
Oh,
can, like and
what
subscribe. I appreciate it.
this?
What's that?
What's this?
What's this?
Yeah.
I don't know. What does that mean?
Oh no, ask Brian. Ask Brian about
This?
this. Yeah, ask
I
him.
don't know. I'm gonna have to
If
ask
he's
him.
a true baseball person, he'll know.
This?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Actually, I saw a guy hit for the Reds hit a double last night, and he did that on
Oh,
second
really?
base, and I was
Oh,
like, "What
that's
the heck?"
interesting. Because
I don't know why he did it, but he
I
did
thought it was a,
this.
I thought it was a Dodger thing when they
I've
do
seen the
something
Dodgers
great.
do it too. I've seen the
It's
Dodgers do it.
Otani has
Muncie.
like a commercial or something. He goes like this, and everybody's been making fun of him. Sorry, I ruined it for Brian. My bad.
All right, man. All
Just
right,
just put
that's
the
it.
hook out for Brian. Let's do it.
Okay, I will. I will. All right, that's it for today, and we'll see you soon.
See you, bud.
Yeah, yeah. There we go.